Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting the like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Well, let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from Porcupines Are God from the EntitledPeople subreddit. And it says, web designer thinks he can decorate cakes better than a 10-year veteran. Make it make sense. Ooh, dearie me. As the title might imply, I work as a cake decorator for a small grocery chain in the Midwest. I've been doing this job for over 10 years. I'm self-taught, but I'm good at what I do, and I've got the photo portfolio to prove it. I'm known for my skill at freehand design on cakes. So customers often come to the store and ask for me specifically for custom designs. I have a few regulars who buy several cakes designed by me per year. So I've cemented a reputation for quality cake designs. But I'm also overwhelmed in my work volume and need help. Note, there are conversations happening, but I'll be paraphrasing a bit since I remember the gist but not the actual wording. This all happened about a month ago. In comes a boy. Let's call him Jake. Jake is fresh out of college and looking to make some side money while he builds his web design business. Understandable and even admirable. After all, entrepreneurship is hard and successful businesses don't form overnight. I'm a little surprised since male cake decorators are a bit of a minority for some reason. No joke, in 10 years of this, I've only met 2 other male decorators. I start training Jake in the basics of crumb coating and main coat so I can focus on the actual decorating. I'm also training him on filling the display case, labeling, dating, marking out, slicing bread for the actual bakery, etc. The one thing I ask him not to do unless I'm absent is taking cake orders, because I have a very specific way I like it done. Because I do a lot of freehanding. I like to add as much detail as is physically possible on the order sheet and draw a sketch in the back of the paper so the customer can get the best image to match their vision. Obviously, if I'm not there, whoever is asked will take the order, and if it's something complicated, I'll just call the customer. Jake told me he understood, and when his training was done, we started working. I started to notice a few issues. Now I'm aware that since Jake was a student of code and internet, he's not going to be the world's greatest baker or decorator. I get that this is just a job for him, whereas it's a career for me, and he'll probably only be here a year or two depending on the growth of his business. But Jake started acting weird. For one, he started bossing the other bakers around. When one of the newer girls labeled a whole batch of bread wrong, Jake snapped at her to do it again and do it right. Yes, she'd put the wrong labels on, but I could see her tearing up from his scolding. Next, I came in one morning after a day off and Jake had changed around the entire display case. Normally, I wouldn't care, but we have a planogram to follow from the store indicating a standard they want to see. And if a district manager came in and saw this, I'd get hosed since I'm the decorator and it's my responsibility. When I confronted him on this, he told me he thought it looked better this way. I'll admit that some of it made sense, but he stacked all the sheet cakes on the top shelf, crowding them and making it difficult for the customers to see the designs. He also put the ready-made cakes all in a corner and piled all the single-serve desserts in the whole bottom shelf, pulling out about 3 times more inventory than was necessary and forcing me to put it all back into the freezer. This process took about an hour. I forced him to finish while I checked my orders. The blood in my veins froze when he told me, "Oh, they're done already. I finished them yesterday morning." What? I went and checked the cooler and sure enough, all 9 cakes ordered the week before sat on the shelf. And they all looked like absolute horse crap. I hadn't trained him on the decoration portion of the job because A, that's my job, and B, he'd only been there a week at that point, and it takes time to learn this stuff. He knew enough at this point to write sufficiently on a cake, do basic coating and basic borders. He didn't know how to do literally anything else. Had to scrape all 9 cakes and rush 4 of them in under 2 hours to meet their pickup times that afternoon and evening. That's a lot of frosting waste, and I was starting to get annoyed. I wasn't the only one. Jake was annoyed that I'd ruined his cakes. He told me, "I took my time. They look so good." They did not look good, and I can't send them out like that, I told him. "Look, don't blame me because you're too slow," he said. Now, I'm just a decorator. I didn't have the clout to fire anyone, and I could quickly see Jake was just being an idiot. He didn't know what he was doing, and anyone with eyes could see that. But boy, I was getting pissed with him. I was too busy remaking the cakes he botched and filling some new orders that came in online, so I let his BS slide. I told Jake to go help a customer at the bread counter. For a couple of days after that, things seemed normal and Jake appeared to have calmed down. I chalked his outburst up to stress, but I was keeping an eye on him. I was helping slice a huge order or bread that was overloading the bakers when I saw Jake helping a customer. I recognized her as one of our regulars, a woman who could be a bit prickly if her orders weren't done to her exact specifications. He showed her something on his phone, and then I saw him take out an order form. He filled it out, showed the customer, and then stuck the form in my folder. I waited until he was doing something else before I went and checked it. He'd taken an order for a type of cake we absolutely cannot do in a retail setting. Think a 3-tier specialty flavored wedding cake with fondant and hundreds of flowers and edible glitter. A cake the price of which would factor in the hundreds, and which I did not have the supplies, facilities, equipment, or even the pricing for in our computer. Now I stress again, I'm aware the kid is a web developer, not a baker or decorator. However, he was well aware by this point that we cannot do cakes like this, and he even wrote that the customer asked for me specifically. I immediately confronted him again and told him this is not a cake I can do. He actually smirked at me and said, "No joke. So you actually can't do this kind of cake. Want me to do it for you?" Now, I actually could do this cake, just not in a retail setting where we don't even have a price sticker for it. I asked him what his problem was. What was with the attitude? "I think I deserve some more credit for all the work I've done to help you," he said. I told him, "Jake, I trained you in the basics of running a bakery and frosting cakes to take some of the volume off. I did not train you to decorate cakes yet. You just don't know what you're doing yet, and the cake you did the other day made more work for me. If you want to learn, I'll teach you when I have time, but for now, please stop trying to do my job for me and focus on what I taught you to do." I left him and went to go and phone the regular and prayed she was in a good mood to accept I couldn't do this kind of cake. Yeah, she wasn't happy, and I wound up having to promise her a discount. I felt I was being reasonable with Jake. I guess I was wrong because he suddenly got a lot worse. Roughly a day or two after that incident, I came in one morning and not only was Jake not there, but he had done all my orders from the previous evening. Again. And again, they looked horrible, and again, I had to scrape and redo them. It also crumb-coated literally every single round cake base we had and stacked them mass production style on a rack in the freezer. So now I had 0 round blanks and a crap ton of crumb-coated rounds in a single flavor. Big issue. I had to order 4 more boxes of rounds. Jake also harassed that newer baker girl again. This time to the point full on tears after he deemed her "Happy Birthday Ryan" wasn't good enough on the cake she was asked to write on. Jake has even tried reporting me to the manager, complaining that I'm discriminating against him because he's black. I'm not sure if he is or isn't really. His skin is kind of olive toned. Either way, I never said anything about his ethnicity, so I'm not sure where this is coming from. He's driving me insane. All of what I've mentioned has happened over a period of about 3.5 weeks. When he's good, he's very good. When he's bad, he's the devil in a blue ball cap. So that brings me to today, and I'm frazzled, fried, and tired as hell. All I have is word of mouth on his antics, and my managers aren't exactly cordial when it comes to employee squabbles, and I've made it more than clear that they'd rather settle it out of court, so to speak. It's a small franchise of like 3 stores, so there really isn't an HR I can go to. Any advice? An edit, holy shit, this blew up. Okay, I just got to get through reading the comments, and wow, seriously, that was a lot to go through. Firstly, I truly appreciate the advice and support I got for this and what should be done. I'll address a few common points since I can't possibly answer all these. Point 1 is short and sweet. I'm not a bot. This isn't AI. I just go into a shit ton of detail. I'm autistic. Sue me, is what I do. To the best of my knowledge, AI generally can't swear, so the word shit shouldn't be possible, lol. I could be wrong about that, but I'm a real person. I know my account is new. I came here looking for advice. It's my first Reddit account. Nice to meet you all. Point 2. I would love to take photos, however there is a strict no phones policy for all employees, with exceptions for phones being used as medical devices. I have a person with type 1 diabetes whose phone is used to give him updates on his levels. It doesn't really do anything else, so he's allowed to keep it for his needs. The rest of us are shit out of luck. Yes, I know this policy is stupid and frustrating, but they bring the hammer down hard on anyone they catch with a phone. However, I have a workaround I may be able to try. It involved more waste, but I could just sneak a few of Jake's cakes and some of the frosting waste into the smaller blast freezer where we store ice cream and present this as evidence. So I'll give that a shot. I still haven't touched the crumb-coated rounds, and I did save that BS order he took for the prickly regular. I'm also going to start writing down the hours I spend on fixing his mistakes, and all the tasks included, as well as the prices of the cakes that can't be used. You're all right. Money talks more than I ever could, and I should take advantage of that. Point 3. The store is in the middle of a managerial power struggle. Our old manager retired 5 months ago, and the higher-ups below him are all scrambling to figure out a new hierarchy and deal with a new young store lead who just took over. He's not great at his job and tends to under-supervise, so my managers are going to be more of a hindrance than a help. My husband recommended I contact the owner of the small franchise, so I may do that. He does live within the area, so emailing him might be the best option. Point 4. I love the idea of just letting one of his crappy cakes go out to a customer, but I have more respect for my customers than he does, and I've built a rapport with them. I don't want to disappoint them. It's not about protecting Jake, it's about keeping people who come to me for my skills happy and satisfied with my work. I've only gotten where I am thanks to word of mouth from people I've impressed. I've brought a ton of custom business to the bakery purely through the grapevine. That's a lot of reputation I have to be careful about. Believe me, I want Jake gone. He's only getting worse and bossier, and I've gotten a lot of ideas on how to start going about this thanks to you guys. And while I could probably let the display case slide, I just can't bring myself to let him screw up someone's custom birthday cake like that. I'm bad at dealing with conflict. It's always been my worst social skill. That's why cake decorating is perfect for me. I get to be creative and I'm largely left alone to do my thing. I've been super lucky to have never had to deal with a Jake before now, so I'm kind of in uncharted waters here. That's why I reached out and why I appreciate all this advice. I can't say for sure how long it'll take to get enough evidence to bring to the owner, but I promise I'll give you guys an update when I have something. Thanks so much. A few people have asked for cake photos. I don't have any from this store because I don't want to risk losing my job, and yes, some employees, including Jake, do risk it by bringing in their phones. But I have photos from previous places I've worked. I'm trying to figure out how to add photos. I know that OP said that they'd rather them settle it out of court, air quotes, in this situation, but I think they would take it a lot more seriously if they knew the potential damage this guy could be causing, wasting stock, damaging company reputation, etc. because of his mistakes. Like people were suggesting, I would be documenting everything you can, writing down what's happened and be going straight to that franchise owner. Because it would have been one thing if Jake turned around and said, yeah, I fucked up, I'm really sorry, but he's not. He's escalating in this situation. He seems to be harassing other employees at the same time, accepted a fucking wedding cake. My man is a disaster waiting to happen, and he has the potential to bring you down with him if someone doesn't get made aware of this. But a commenter says, have management actually seen the decorated cakes he's produced? Do they understand how much they'd lose if you sent out Jake's work? Ultimately, they only care about the bottom line, so you're going to need to demonstrate how much he's cost over 3 weeks. Document and email everything, dates, costs, what you did in response. Obi says, oh, let's see them now. I'm going to start saving the worst cakes in the blast freezer, lol. I'm not AI, I'm just super thorough. Plus, would AI even know this much terminology? I don't use any of the programs, so I'm legit curious if it would know this stuff. Commenter says, tell your manager everything. Have other workers corroborate. If they don't support you, go on vacation for 2 weeks and let them find out the hard way. Obi says, great idea to involve my co-workers in the bakery. They've been dealing with him too, especially the girl who's been packing bread for them lately. He keeps singling her out and it's really stressing her out. Commenter says, take photos of his fucked up cakes and the order for a cake your store doesn't do. Take the time to document every line he crosses, then take it to management. If they won't do their job and manage the situation after that, start looking around for a position at another bakery before his antics tarnish your reputation. That's about all you can legally do with a know-it-all dipshit who's trying to tank you. Opie says that's the biggest reason I keep fixing his shit. I worked damn hard for this reputation since a lot of decorators can't/won't freehand, and I'll be damned if I let him screw that up. I just don't even get where this came from. He wasn't like this the first week he was here. Why does a web designer want to decorate cakes so badly? Commenter says, document everything. Photograph the botched cakes. Are you a supervisor? If so, write up what he's been trained to do and that he isn't authorized to do tasks he isn't trained to do. Explain that crumb coating all those cakes might have seemed a logical way to be efficient, but it isn't efficient if you don't have blanks for orders that don't require crumb coating. Explain if more cakes are crumbed than needed, the extras will go stale before they're needed. As a computer geek, he's probably trying to make things more efficient, without the understanding of things like food becoming stale. Maybe devise him with how many crumbed cakes can be on hand and how many are too much. If you explain why things are done the way they are done, and ask why he did what he did, maybe he will learn something and together you might find ways to put his analytical mind to work to save time. None of this might work. I'm getting narcissist vibes, but document his training, insubordination, harassment of other staff. You do have to let management know how much frosting he is wasting. Photographs. Opie says, that actually makes sense. Like he's trying to translate his expertise in technology into the bakery. I really want to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not stupid by any means, but he's definitely raising tensions back here at a really bad time in store operations when tensions are already high. Commenter says, as long as you keep saving the day instead of letting Jake's failures become management's problem, things will get worse. Stop protecting Jake. Opie says it sure looks that way, doesn't it? It's a stupid balance of keeping things looking good and making customers happy. That really does start straddling the line of protecting this idiot. Opie on why they haven't confronted Jake yet. Opie says, beautifully said. I just can't bring myself to let customers pick that shit up when they're expecting my usual quality. Some of these people have been ordering specifically from me for a couple of years now, and their standards are almost as high as mine. I'm horrible at dealing with conflict, so I'm way out of my comfort zone. The managers are kinda useless right now since the old store lead retired, and the new one is kinda useless. But I plan to start recording what happens and I'll email it to the owner. It's a small franchise, so we should definitely show some interest. Thank you so much for this great breakdown. Commenter says, why aren't you taking photos of the cakes he's ruining to show your manager? Opie says strict no phones policy while on the clock. The only exception is medical device phones. And someone says, is there a general manager who can help Opie out with this issue? Opie says we're actively hiring for a bakery manager. The deli manager is pitching in where she can, but she's overworked as it is, so she can't always be there. Imagine Jake applying for the manager role. Ooh-wee. So Opie's got a couple of updates on this. First one came in a couple of days later and said, okay, it's the weekend and Jake isn't working today and tomorrow. We had 4 cake orders yesterday, 2 of which are due tomorrow. Jake made those orders even though I asked him not to. And of course they look like hell. I can't take photos and I won't risk my job bringing in phones like some others here are willing to do. Trust me, Jake isn't the only one skirting this rule, and honestly, it's the least of my worries. I took the cakes he made into the blast freezer in dairy and let the department lead know I want them left alone for now. I emailed the owner of the stores and let them know I have a problem here and everything that's been going on, and that I have proof I can show him if he's willing to stop by. I also got a few of the other bakery people to agree to put in their 2 cents when he does. He's supposed to come by tomorrow to check in on things. I'm more confident talking to him than the new manager. This guy is pretty chill and easy to talk to. I'm remaking the orders with fresh cakes and scraping nothing. I also took the advice some people gave me and saved a big bowl of scraped icing from the previous botched cakes Jake threw together. That's going in the blast freezer as well, so Jake doesn't see them in case the owner can't make it. Thanks for all the advice, guys. You all gave me a lot of ideas for dealing with this. I truly appreciate it. I'll give you another update when I have one. So it was 5 days later that OP does have another update and says, sorry, I'm not sure how the update system works. I'm still pretty new to Reddit, but I wanted to post an update about my struggles with Jake trying to effectively sabotage my job in the bakery. What happened here just a couple of days ago? I got in contact with the owner, who is an extremely chill guy. I've known him for around 6 years since he took over. Not sure who he took over from or why. The last guy was kind of reclusive. He had me meet him out for a coffee and chat away from the bakery to tell him everything. I told him about the struggles we've had with Jake, how he's been harassing the bakers, how he's constantly using his phone in spite of the rules, and especially how he won't stop trying to do my job. The owner, whom I'll call Henry, was very concerned and said that he had stopped by this past Tuesday. He did, and Jake was there. In the 2 days since I've spoken with the owner, Jake had not only continued to do my orders, he had also begun ordering inventory for me. By the time I realized this, it was too late and we're going to be receiving about 20 boxes of white sheet cakes. Yay. So suffice to say, it was very satisfying watching Henry sidle through on Tuesday while Jake was badly decorating one of my orders. I took advice from you all there in my last post and just let him do it. I sliced bread in the meantime and watched. Henry approached Jake and quite irritably asked what he was doing. Jake looked very confused. I'm guessing he had never met Henry during the hiring process. Explained incredulously that he was decorating a cake for a customer. Henry nodded and said, "I thought you were hired as a bakery assistant. I don't believe this is your job." Jake tried to explain that I was training him, to which I replied that I wasn't. Henry motioned me over and asked me to take him and Jake to the blast freezer. Inside the blast freezer, I'd saved everything from my last post. 11 ruined cake orders, 4 balls of wasted frosting, the entire rack of crumb-coated rounds, another rack of crumb-coated rounds in a different flavor, a random 4-tier cake Jake made during one of my days, and a whole stack of 12 packs of childishly decorated sloppy cupcakes. I told the owner that all of this was done by Jake, and Jake looked furious. "Why are these here?" "These were orders. You didn't give the customer their orders," he snapped. I told him calmly that I'd remade the orders because again, these looked horrible. Henry agreed and told Jake that these were far from passable, and asked him what on earth he thought he was doing. Jake blurted out he was working efficiently. Henry asked him why he'd needlessly coated all the rounds, far more than I could use before they expired. Jake instead said to let him decorate them and he'd finish much faster than I could. I was seeing red by this point, but Henry just sighed, told Jake to come to the manager's office and instructed me to return to the bakery. I didn't know what was happening. It wasn't until about an hour or so later Henry came back to the bakery. He apologized for everything and said he'd fired Jake for product waste and insubordination. Apparently Jake had gotten quite mouthy with him during their talk. Henry acknowledged I still needed help and got that newer baker girl, whom I'll call Jay, to help me until he could hire a replacement. I don't think I'll ever understand what in God's green earth was doing with that little weirdo. Had some people comment that web designers and the like tend to view other jobs as somewhat lesser and simple, or something to that effect. My husband suggested he was merely arrogant and believed he could replace me. But why would he want to? It's not like he was aiming to be a baker or decorator, so why go through the trouble? I don't get it, and honestly I'm glad I didn't have to think about it anymore. Jay is much better at the job than Jake was, and honestly much more steady-handed anyway. Sorry it's not more dramatic, just a standard idiot firing, but I'm glad it's over. Back to my peaceful cakes. There's so much more advice, guys. I seriously appreciated all of it. Commodore said to OP, "You were in charge. For Jake, this could not be." OP says, "I'm just glad to be rid of him." Commodore says, "How did that little narcissist turd get this far without getting checked already? Must be his first job." Commodore replies saying OP covered for him in this job for too long. I'm guessing this happened before. OP replied saying, "Yeah, my own dumb fault. I'd got unlucky and never had to deal with someone like him before, so this was new." Commodore says, "I'm curious, without a manager, weren't you the highest level staff member at the store? Did they give you a bunch of responsibilities but no authority? Seems like at the minimum, even if you couldn't fire him yourself, you should have at least had the power to send him home and alert your bosses. Sounds like the guy wasted a whole lot of company money in the meanwhile while this was sorted out, while offering no benefit back to it, since he actually made your job way harder." OP says no, that'd be the bakery manager, which we're currently hiring for. So the deli manager is technically the one in charge back here. After her, it's the store manager, who kind of sucks at his job. Commenter replies saying, "Maybe you should get the promotion, so happy you're rid of Jake. Here's to happy baking from here on out, and happy customers too." OP says Jay asked if I could show her some decorating so she can make her mum's birthday cake this year. I'm silently hoping I found my new decorating assistant because she's doing great so far. Commenter says Jake got his just desserts. Which OP just went, "Yeah!" Commenter said, "It may not be the most dramatic, but it is satisfying to know that he got fired and you don't have to deal with him anymore. Although I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the office when he got the axe." OP says, "One of the ladies working orders upstairs told me she heard Jake getting seriously rude with Henry. Henry is really quiet, so she couldn't hear what he was saying. But apparently Jake had some choice insults about me and how he'd get a lawyer for this, lol. I wish him luck. Bloody hell. In one of the warehouses I worked a long time ago, we used to have a forklift. It was a reach truck, and the keys were kept in the manager's drawer, so, you know, people just couldn't come in and whiz around on it. And we used to have an IT guy. His job was assistant to the manager, and his job was to go around setting up new PCs and like doing updates and all that kind of stuff, you know, and problems people would have, he'd go around and sort them out. But this guy was so arrogant. You know, the rest of the IT team were really cool, but this guy, he just thought he was above everyone else. And one day, me and my co-worker that I worked with, we were out in just outside the office area, sorting out the mail, you know, doing the franking machine and all this kind of stuff. And this IT assistant was in our office on the manager's desk, sorting out some problem. I didn't know exactly what it was, but at one point he disappeared, and later on we came into the warehouse, and he's freaking doing donuts on the reach truck. I mean, I say donuts, he was just going around in circles really fast. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to wheel spin those things. He did get in quite a bit of trouble for that. He didn't get sacked. I can't remember exactly what happened to him either, but I just remember that picture of just walking to the end of the warehouse and seeing this freaking forklift just going around in circles and thinking, you fucking idiot. But what about you guys? Have you ever worked with someone who thought they were better than you, the job you've been at for a long time? How did you deal with it? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.